May. Councilperson Bentley.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Morrissey. Soha. Council members Tucho. Wolfram. Mayor Pro Tem Palladino. All present.
Okay, let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Manager David Mackey has one item for us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It is for Hillsdale County Community Foundation grant approval. Under new business item F.
I move to add this Hillsdale County Community Foundation grant approval under new business item F.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Soha and a second from Councilman Morrissey. Any further discussion on the item? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
I have a motion to approve the amended agenda from Councilman Soha and a second by Councilman Morrissey. Any further discussion or amendments to the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, let's move on to public comments on agenda items only.
Hello, Shannon Gaynor, Ward 4. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, which I was really disappointed because we were really sick. My comments are on reference to the finance minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Better? Okay, Shannon Gaynor, Ward 4. I'm not able to come to the meeting last time. I was really sick, so stayed home. I'm not an accountant, but I can balance my checkbook, and I've paid all my bills for the rest of all my life, and I am completely debt-free. Everything we have is paid off in full. Home, everything. Bob, you asked the auditor the question. I did watch it online. How much the city really had, and I don't think it was legally allowed for him to even answer that question. So he brought up the Karen Lancaster, the city director, to answer the question. She confirmed the money is there and went on to say that she would like to use it holistically. She mentioned other projects that could be used, and so did the city manager. She referred you to page 5.3 in the minutes, and I asked you guys to read ahead of time. I asked you to pull out and read pages 2-1 of the audit. If you take the revenue, $32,671,459, and you take away the expenses, which include the pensions and the debt we're already paying off, it comes to $27,605,742. When you subtract those two, we have an extra income that goes into the budget of $5 million, $5,067,717. The money's coming in every year. It's not going away. We know that even during COVID, it didn't go away. According to page 2.1 of the audit, there is $1,494,535 unassigned money in the general fund. And according to our financial director, if you went, she referred you guys to page 5.3, she stated that there was $3,964,662 in the capital improvement fund, with a total that gives us about $5.5 million that's out there able to be used somewhere. It's not in the budget. Everything else is already budgeted. That goes into the $32 million. The question was asked, do we have this money just sitting around? The answer is yes, it is sitting around. It needs to be used, but the money is sitting there to be used. Bob, you made a statement that if you use the $3.9 million on roads, there wouldn't be enough left over for anything else. The utility companies are already funded, so that money's taken care of, so we don't have to worry about that. Do we use the money on a new building? That was brought up. Do we pay off debt? Well, it's already in the budget. Do we put it back into the airport? Okay, I'll finish it at the end.
Any more public comment? Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name's Roxanne Beer, and I am a pretty new local resident of Hillsdale for the past 2 years. And I just want to say that I'm concerned about the Kiefer House project, and I'll reserve all comments for after the meeting, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Good evening, Andrew Gelser, Ward 4. I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to speak to the Kiefer House Hotel's Oprah Amendment Resolution that's on your slated business this evening. I encourage you all to approve this. And I'm here if there are any questions from a standpoint from TIFA, standpoint from a business operator that has used Oprahs in the past to successfully develop properties. Thank you.
Okay, we will close the podium and move on to the consent agenda. We have approval of bills, city and BPU claims of November 14th and November 27th, payroll of December 5th, city council minutes of December 2nd, finance minutes of December 2nd, 2025 board committee meeting dates, BPU oxidation ditch bearing and couplers, BPU replacement, tertiary filters, BPU wells 4 and 5 standby generator, and BPU water, sewer, electric dump trucks. Any comments or questions from council?
Make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Let's move on to communications and petitions. The 2024 Hillsdale Planning Commission Annual Report. Dr. Morrissey, Alan, Kim, anyone like to discuss this?
Seems self-explanatory.
Okay. Very good. Take a look through that if you would like. We have the Mitchell Research Center winter newsletter. They had their open house on Sunday. It's a great time. Encourage you to check it out at any times during their hours. They are always excited to answer questions and research for you. Any comments on the Mitchell Research Center newsletter? All set on that? Okay.
It's worth reading, as you pointed out.
Yeah, always you will always learn something from them. And we will talk more about the Mitchell hopefully in the coming months. Item letter C, REU letter Keith O'Neill. Should we read this? Not too long. Well, the letter is long, but the email. Okay, that's in there if you want to read it. Item letter D, homeless letter from Jerry Brown. Any comments on that? Item letter E, a letter from Ted Jansen, again about the Mayor Pro Tem vote. And any comments on that? Okay. Item letter F, leaf collection verbal update, Mr. Blake.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Manager. Our current leaf collection was completed last week. We finished for the first time on schedule, no overtime. We finished $12,277 down from our expenditures last year of $74,277. We collected roughly 3,504 cubic yards of leaves. Our per cubic yard cost this year is about $17.69 with a $20.79 cubic yard cost of last year. So all in all, leaf collection went very well this year.
Yes, Councilman Flynn.
Just a quick question, Jason. I noticed that out across from the, where the ISD and all of that is, and, behind the, cement plant. The trucks go there and they dump the leaves. Is that just like a central collection point for them to be picked back up again and taken to wherever they finally go?
Yes, those are contracted out to the contractor there, Drybar, and then he takes them out to his fields and tills them under.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So Jason, I've had a few, appreciate the leaf collection, I think it went well this year, but had a few inquiries about why we're not using the machine that we spent $250,000 on 3 years ago to do that, and what's the purpose of the machine if we're not going to use it for leaf collection?
Okay.
First correction to that statement is we didn't spend $250,000 on that machine. It was just a little over 100,000 if I remember correctly. Correct, Jason?
Yes, sir. The attachments I got, it was a full price, like 174-ish. With the time we got all the 3 different attachments we got for it.
But if you could explain to the council and Councilman Soha, the use of the different equipment depending on the situation.
Yes, Councilman, so if I may, I'd like to back up a little bit. So when earlier this year, we approved the purchase of the brush hog, or the brush attachment to help with that so we can use it more times through the year, which we did. We got through the bike path the first time, the whole bike path, and this whole entirety this year, something we haven't done for years. What we find is the machine is not the catch-all or the once-over to do everything. It's got limitations. If it's too wet, they get clogged up in there. It only runs about 7 to 8 miles an hour. So what we're finding on the streets, the loader goes 25 miles an hour. So if there's not much leaves on those streets, we're going to use the loader because of travel time. We try to keep everything on a schedule because we still have to do 54 acres of cemeteries to do leaf collection in, and over 100 acres of parks to do leaf collection in. It's all done by hand. So the goal is to try to stay on schedule and use the equipment we have. Also to use the trackless, and it has its place, it really does. It takes 2 more operators to use that, and with the rental rates and the cost of that, it's about $740 more per day to run than the loader crew. So if there's heavy leaves, perfect. The perfect ideal to run the trackless machine is when they're a little froze, they go through the machine very well. When they're too wet, that's not. So the heavy rain days, you've seen it where we haven't run that machine. The machines are actually about 50-50 this year. So we found that common goal. That's why we save a little money on this side as well. We're just, as we're using it, we're finding where it's good and it's bad at, but we can still use it for brush and stuff like that as well. I would not like to see that machine go down the road because it does have so many uses, and we just are scratching the surface on its limitations. One thing is our operators, most of my operators, 3 of them are brand new this year as well, so it's a learning curve of getting them to use that machine as well.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the clarification on the dollar amount, Mr. Mackey. So Jason, okay, so I guess the challenge that I'm having, and a couple of people that have reached out to me are having, is that we spent $174,000 and change on this machine, and when we bought it, it was sold to council as the end-all be-all for leaf collection. It's going to be the most amazing thing in the history of the world. It's going to save us money, and the leaves will disappear. It was sold as a, and then it was also sold that there would be future attachments to be able to be purchased for multiple purposes, which is one of the reasons I bought it. But then now you're telling me it's less expensive to use the old way that had been tried and true in our community for a long time, that's actually less expensive to do than the leaf collection. So now we have, how we understand why we spent $174,000 on a machine if we could have done it the same way that was tried and true for less money. I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling that we made the purchase because it's not being used for what it was originally bought for throughout the city, and I need reconciliation there. It's really hard because I voted yes on a $174,000 purchase for leaf collection that is more expensive to use than the original way we were doing it. that seems to be more efficient from what you're telling me tonight.
I'll take this, Jason, and you can jump in and add anything to it. So what we're doing with the two different pieces of equipment is maximizing our efficiency or increasing it. As Jason was trying to explain, with the loader, it works better if there's not a lot of leaves because you can move quicker. With the trackless, it works best when you have a ton of leaves down. And each year is different on that volume and when that volume falls. This year, as Jason said, this is the least expensive year that we've done this leaf collection, and we did it on time, within budget, with no overtime, because we're using the equipment properly or to their strong points. And so it's not that the trackless doesn't have its uses, but by using it in combination with other equipment more suited for the condition, we've been able to save more money for the city. And Jason, you can address this. I don't think we've ever been able to do it under the budgeted amount in the past. It's always been somewhat over. We're tweaking that process so we can actually be more cost efficient. So it is not a waste of money. If we were to move to the heavier loads, that the loader it just isn't as effective as the trackless. So it depends on the condition of when we're using the equipment, and we're using it to the equipment strengths versus just blanketly using it and taking the results we get. We're trying to be the most efficient as we can.
Absolutely, thank you, sir. May I add something to that as well? So there is multiple days that both pieces of equipment out to stay on schedule as well. It does have its place for sure. And if I may share a couple other numbers too. So 2022, we're at $79,000. We're over budget. Last year at 74, and this year, the big drop is 62,000. The leaves weren't out there this year like they've been in years past. That's probably one of the bigger ones as well.
Good. Take a minute. Could you remind council how many weeks the DPS crew is dedicated to leaves and brush throughout the whole year?
So the fall leaf, I kind of break it up if you don't mind, sir. We spend a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks on brush every year. Fall leaf collection is a minimum of 5 weeks. We just got on schedule, so 5 weeks. After that, we spend a week and a half to 2 weeks in the cemeteries, and then probably 2 weeks in the parks to do leaves in the parks as well. So it's safe to say 2.5 to 3 months of the year is nothing but brush, leaves throughout the parks, buildings and grounds, cemeteries, etc.
What's the total cost of all of that?
So the fall pickup, we just got 62,000. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers for the brush collection, but I definitely can get those.
If I remember correctly, it was about 100,000 for spring, fall, and brush. Is that?
That was when we did spring leaf collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. That is correct.
Okay. And we have about $500,000 for leaf collection, which is about 70,000 this year.
74,000, yes, sir.
74,000, thank you. The big problem we're running into is this system is just not able to meet the budgeted amount under the millage. So we're having to draw from DPS budget, but the problem even broader than that is that we're using union employees who are meant to be fixing serious infrastructure issues, right? I mean, that would be your primary goal, maintaining infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
To collect leaves. And I don't see how we can continue on with this with our other budgetary priorities. Could you also remind us the amount that Modern Waste quoted for the leaf collection?
Yeah, so the last leaf collection that Modern did for us was 3 pickups, 2 in the spring. 2 in the fall and 1 in the spring. That was $19,500, and that was back at March 4th, 2019.
Okay, so it's going to be more.
Oh, yes.
Even if it's a 50% markup. $74,000. We could cut the amount from the millage in half. Your guys could be doing infrastructure work for an additional 2 months a year potentially. I just think we have to find a way to go back. I know it's going to be a burden on people. Most people are going to be able to do it in a couple compost bags, right? They can do their whole house in an hour or two. There are people that that's going to be a difficulty for. But we have to be able to use, I don't know, charity, hire your 12-year-old neighbor. This is just a real strain on city resources to, and what's the hourly rate for your guys?
With the fringe benefits, $32 an hour, somewhere in there, 31.
And you have how many working the leaf collection?
In different areas of the town with everything else, all 9 of them.
I would strongly suggest that council consider going back to modern waste, and we can use all of our connections here to, hire neighborhood kids and help out our neighbors, get our churches to help the elderly people to bag these things up. But that's my opinion. I don't know if you have an opinion on this.
If we may, I did reach out to LRS and ask them to give us some preliminary numbers we can talk about at the next Public Service Committee.
Great. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, Mr. Mackey, if we did that, or do people have to go and buy those compostable bags and bag the leaves? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Yeah, that didn't go over well with the community at all. That's why we passed the millage, and the millage went before the people to the vote for the half mill. That's correct? So that $74,000 is earmarked and is required to be used specifically for leaf collection. And if to rescind it, we'd have to put it back before the voters or let it expire. Is that correct?
I would probably contend that in the sense that we could contract out this service with Modern Waste, pay for it with city funds, and we might have enough extra to say free bags, pick them up at DPS, pick them up at City Hall. We would be saving a lot of money. We could even maybe, I don't know, could we partner with, if people are really in a troubled spot about being able to collect their leaves, could we partner with someone to, a few good men. We could even use, I don't know, city community service funds. There would be extra money there. Just seems like this is not the most efficient use of our DPS employees. That's the basic point.
How many men did you say it takes to run the truck? The $174,000 vehicle?
To run that crew, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and then a contracted driver, so we're at 6. I'm sorry, 5.
So, did I imagine seeing vehicles that just drive down the road in Jonesville, scooping up leaves with no schedule and no assistance? I feel like that's a thing.
Can you elaborate on it more, sir?
One vehicle with one driver driving around unscheduled, sweeping up the leaves in the streets.
So Jonesville uses a vacuum unit. One thing I would like to point out is Jonesville's road network is a fraction of ours as well. With our road network there, that would be something that's a possibility, but with our road network, we have essentially 96 miles of curbs that we'd have to do that on compared to 13 over there times 2, so 26.
So it's a bigger job, but is the concept the same? Just a guy in a truck, a guy in the vehicle sweeping up the road?
The concept is definitely the same. It's about the bulk that's different, yes, sir.
So, I mean, the schedule is never the schedule as far as I'm concerned. And because of the weather, it's like nobody's fault.
Sure.
So if it were just some guy in the street sweeper going around, how much could that cost?
Well, Jonesville don't actually own a street sweeper, so it's just a vacuum unit they have with the tube out the front of it, sucking it out. We go over and then we swept the roads for them here with our street sweeper.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Soha?
Just to speak to that, I know Jason did a lot of due diligence 3 years ago and potential of buying a vacuum for one of our dump trucks and modifying it.
Yes, sir.
And it was very cost prohibitive. And also Jonesville's has been paid for a number of years, and a lot of the local, at least not, I don't know a lot, but at least one of the local fabrication places in the industrial park makes replacement parts for the city if the vehicle breaks. So it's a lot smaller scale, so that it's not apples to apples there. But in Jason's defense, he did look at that option, and it was expensive to purchase the vacuum.
Councilman Stuchel.
I would just like to repeat history for us, but when we went to the bags, we had a small army of people here screaming and hollering, because it's one thing to rake them out in the curb, it's another thing to rake them up, pick them up, put them in bags. So, I mean, that's a lot of work for people. And you're talking a crew of 5 versus a small army of people to do this if you can find them. So, I mean, it sounds nice, but we've been down that road.
I understand, but it's a small army of citizens helping each other out versus our unionized DPS employees who are trained to repair our infrastructure. And if the Army comes in here to complain, we say, what is your primary concern? The roads. And there are just so many places in the budget where we're not prioritizing infrastructure. Councilman Flynn.
With all that said, would there be any repercussions against property owners in the city that do not follow the proper rules and regulations? Because I do remember when we were doing the bags that many went to the local hardware store and bought the bags, but others used plastic bags. Those were not picked up. Others continued to rake to the curb. Those were not picked up. And then when the snow fell and the plows came, they plowed all the leaves into the drains and plugged everything up during the winter time. And then in the spring we had an even bigger mess because the bags would bust open during the winter time, and it just seemed to be a real mess. So would there be any type of repercussion against city residents or property owners that say, hey, if you don't follow the rules, you have to pay some sort of penalty?
Yeah, it would go against, to clean up, they'd probably get a ticket. I don't want to say this because I'm not a police officer, they'd probably get a ticket with X amount of time to get them cleaned up.
Anything else on leaves? Good.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate your work. Thanks for getting that done. Hillsdale County Commissioner update, Doug Ingles. Doug is sick. Say a prayer for Doug. Here is his update. Scaffolding is coming down at the courthouse. Clay tile roofing is being completed. Final details are being wrapped up. Project is essentially complete. Sign off on all punch lists should happen in the next couple of weeks. Second point, the position of Emergency Management Director will be vacant as of December 31st. The position has been posted with 9 applications received. We hope to fill that position in the next couple of weeks. Number 3, Commissioner Benzing and myself have had a preliminary meeting with judges, Sheriff Department, Prosecuting Attorney-elect, MDOC, Michigan Department of Corrections, and Probations to address jail overcrowding. Great. Godspeed to them. Number 4, the 2025 budget has been approved. The revenue for the budget is $15,675,000. Expenditures for the budget are $15,742,000. Projected general fund balance at end of 25 is $1,920,000, or approximately a 12% fund balance. Any comments on the commissioner update? Okay, we don't have any introduction and adoption of ordinances or public hearings. We do have one old business update, airport hangar lease verbal update. Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The update is that our option on leasing the hangar didn't quite work out the way we had hoped. So we're looking at coming forward with numbers to actually fix the hangar ourselves, as well as the T-hangars that are out there. I know Mayor Pro Tem was out at the airport and met with the staff, the airport manager, and I believe you asked them to put the numbers together on that cost so that we can bring it forward to council for further discussion. But in regards to the hangar lease, that did not work out. But, so we are looking at fixing the hangars up ourselves and increasing the rent that we charge those that are leasing.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. Councilman Soha.
May I ask Mr. Mackey why did that get squashed?
It was a nuance with the FAA and how leases like that can be done.
May I follow up? Thank you. So it wasn't necessarily the design of the new doors or the architecture, it was nuance in the law.
It was the nuance in the guidelines that FAA puts forth for airports and how they have to operate with the stipulations for the buildings.
It's unfortunate.
And we don't need to rescind that, you just simply will not execute it?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, new business, letter A, Kiefer House Hotel LLC Oprah Amendment Resolution. Nick or Andrew? Or Sam? Someone?
All of the above.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Palladino and council members. You have before you in your packet a letter submitted by CL Real Estate Development. They are requesting an amendment to the Oprah certificate that they were issued for the Kiefer House Hotel Rehabilitation Project. They are looking to extend the completion date for that to September 30 of 2025. As is mentioned in the letter, the amendment would ensure that the State Tax Commission does not revoke the Oprah certificate while the project remains ongoing. When it comes to Oprahs, they are approved at a local level, but they are subject to State Tax Commission review. So that is what they are considering. We have Nick Fox here tonight from CL Real Estate if you have questions about the project or the need for the amendment, unless you have any for me.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, Nick. Thanks for coming out.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Any questions? Councilman Bentley?
I have a lot of questions. First, I'd like to thank you for the tour. I think it's got the potential to be a beautiful space. I'm going to limit my questions to the letter, unlike what I emailed you. That was other nuts and bolts stuff. But for the letter, and bear with me because these may be dumb questions, and I don't know if they're for you or who they're for.
I'll field what I can.
My first question is, why do we keep hearing 12 years when it is plainly 13 years? Anyone?
I don't have the answer to that.
What's the question?
What are you referencing, sir?
It's 12 years in the letter. But you do the math and it's 13. 5 behind us and 8 in front of us.
The exemption is approved the year following the approval date. So I believe it was 2019 was the year it was approved. So 2020 was the first year that they had the exemption, and then 2032 is their last year, so that's only 12 years.
Except it's 13.
It's 12 tax cycles.
This might be a question for Sam or whoever wrote up the amendment. In the letter that we received, it says the Oprah certificate will still be in effect until council takes future action to revoke it. In the amendment, it says without approving the amendment, the Oprah will expire.
So, if you don't take any action tonight, the project completion date remains December 31st. If they were not to then finish the project by December 31st, after January 1st in the new year, it would be up to council whether or not you would want to consider revoking it. What you would do is we would draft a resolution that would go to the state tax commission. It actually requests them to revoke the certificate because they have to do so. If you do not direct staff to prepare a resolution to go to the state tax commission asking them to revoke it, their certificate will remain in place until they, presumably at some time realize that the project was not completed and they could unilaterally act to revoke it. But we don't know if they would do that, what the timetable would be. So unless council takes action to request a revocation, it would remain in place. Oops, sorry.
And the state's not gonna do anything for 9 months.
I don't know, I can't speculate on their timetable.
Thank you. So I guess, why would we handcuff ourselves when we have to be the next mover? Like, we can wait till January until we have more questions answered. That would be my preference. I don't know why we are handcuffing ourselves that we can't make a different decision. Right? That's what you're saying. We either amend it, and it's amended, so we don't have the option to change our mind, or we just wait and nothing happens, it stays status quo, and they keep working.
So the reason they came to us requesting the amendment is because they don't want to wait until after December 31st, and then, for all intents and purposes, they wouldn't have hit that completion date. They want the certainty to know whether or not they have additional time, just to know that the state isn't going to act or there aren't going to be circumstances later on that would affect it. So that's why they're asking now, because they're coming up towards the end of that period, right? December 31st is a completion date that's in place now.
So that brings up another question. It's been apparent to them and to anyone else that we weren't gonna hit this completion date. And the letter is dated December 4th, and we didn't receive it until December 11th. And so 3 weeks away. Why wasn't this handled 3 months, 6 months ago, 3 weeks ago? I feel like my decisions are being made for me, and I don't get it.
Is there a question there? I'm sorry. That's when they submitted the letter to the city. We just received the letter and it went on the next council agenda.
Okay, this is probably for Mr. Fox. 6 million was the original budget that you projected? Is it?
For the construction hard costs, yes.
And to date, 10.5 has been spent?
That's correct.
And the current projection is 17?
That's total all in for the entire project. That's
the hotel stuff too?
FF&E, like furniture, fixtures, equipment, beds, everything all in. Attorney's fees and everything.
It says in the letter, the Oprah freezes the assessed taxable value to December 2019. And no generation of possible additional taxes to abate the Oprah to actualize the abatement. I don't really understand that, those sentences. Can you?
I cannot speak to that.
I'm not sure what the letter means, I guess, is what I'm saying. It says until the project is completed, there is no increase in the taxable value of the property, so there is no generation of possible additional taxes to abate with the Oprah. The longer the project takes to complete, the less time we will have to actualize the abatement.
Okay, so I think what he was saying was the longer it takes for them to finish it, the less benefit they're getting from having the Oprah. So it's really only them that's being hurt by extending the Oprah.
They're being hurt by the state or by the taxes they owe us?
By the tax structure.
That they owe us.
Right.
So that's the fundamental thing I don't understand. They're coming asking for yet another extension, and I don't know if anybody can give me a count of how many extensions there have been. contracted out a job. This will be the third. Well, the project was supposed to be done, I believe, in 2021. And yeah, COVID happened. But if it was gonna be a 2-year project, and we're 3 years past that, and arguably nowhere near completion. I guess I don't know what you're asking for and why you're asking. But intuitively, it seems to me that someone owes us, not that we should hand out more tax rebates or abatements. Mr. Mackey, anybody? I don't know.
Can you repeat the last part? You said something about someone owing us. So the way that the abatement works is they have the 12 years, and the longer it takes them to finish the project, that's where they are losing on those years. We're not losing anything additional than the 12 years. They're just not getting any benefit of an operating business until they finish it. So they're actually the ones losing for the most part. We've already committed to it unless we revoked it. That 12 years would stand, and that's kind of been the plan for this council. So
regardless of the accounting, they're essentially asking us for money, are they not?
no, they're just asking us to extend the date so that the state can't arbitrarily come in and revoke the tax abatement if the city takes no action.
Two points to follow up on that. The first, as just a matter of practice, I think we've talked about this before, maybe we should establish it in O&G. If there's any communication with city staff that has the possibility of being on a future agenda, like we get a letter on December 4th and this clearly is connected to council action, let's just forward that day of, get the conversation going. We've all been doing a better job of that when we add something to the agenda, explaining why we want this on the agenda, getting it out before Thursday. So if city staff could make a practice of that too, that would be great, and we can maybe address that in policy and O&G. I did ask Brant, I had this question. So the estimated annual taxes over 12 years without the Oprah would be approximately $614,000. Okay, so if it just increased every year and they didn't freeze it in 2019, it would be $614,000. The estimated annual taxes over 12 years with an Oprah would be approximately $260,000. So our cost was set basically if you just follow a 3% interest, though it was 5% last year, so there could be some variation here. Our cost was set at about $350,000 in 2019. Whether they take longer or not, that won't change our dollar amount, if that answers your question. Now, if it were revoked, they would be reassessed at the current taxable value. So we could make more right now, but we won't be giving more, if that makes sense.
Again, I don't know if it does. Like, if we're losing potential money, then yeah, it's costing us.
Nick, could you explain the what is contingent with the Oprah? So it's not just our money, it's not just the taxable value that rides on our Oprah, correct? It's the actual grant.
That's correct, but I'm not as knowledgeable as Brant would have been.
So our money, I don't think, is a central factor in their calculation. It's that our money, our Oprah, is tied to both state and private funding, as far as Brant has explained it to me. The $300,000 I don't think is really essential in their calculation. It's the $1 million of millions in grants that are tied to it, if that.
The MEDC required some city buy-in on the project. So that was what we did with the Oprah.
Okay, I won't get out and waste our time on that anymore, not that I understand it, but moving on. Can you tell me what the approximately 55 full-time equivalent jobs are? Seems high.
Oh, all of the trades people,
No, this is for when the hotel's open, I believe.
right, you would have just the staff, because it's a fully functional restaurant in there as well. So you have wait staff, you have hotel staff, you have management, you have, multiple businesses within the building that would have employees. I mean, just a standard restaurant alone, hires at least 40 to 50 people.
Can you explain the relationship with HIS?
They are a hired management company for the hotel and restaurant.
Will they be making the hires of the principals and all the rest of the employees, or?
They will be, yes.
And it says in the letter that, that's begun.
I'm sorry?
It says in the letter that, you've begun identifying principal staff.
That's correct.
Can you tell us who they are?
I do not know. I know that they were identifying a manager and a chef and one or two assistant managers already.
Locally?
Correct.
Does anybody know? There's a concern about to help make the Kiefer House Hotel sustainable, but I guess that's back to the other stuff. And then just Sam's resolution, whereas the rehabilitation of the facility was delayed by COVID-19 pandemic, labor and material shortages, cost increases, and major water and foundation issues. The COVID is a real.
That was a huge portion of it, absolutely.
But COVID didn't last 3 years, and we're 5 years into a 2-year project, and we're not there yet. So the material shortages and labor shortages, are those ongoing? I mean, how many laborers do you have in there on a given day now? Say
Between 10 to 15 carpenters, laborers.
Couldn't that be 25 or 30 if you paid a wage?
Absolutely. The answer to that is absolutely not. We cannot find enough people to get in there.
You can't find enough.
Correct.
Because I've heard from a lot of locals that.
And the ones that we have not worked out. I know the superintendent that I introduced you to, he went through 43 employees.
Wow.
That he had to, throughout his tenure at the project, of having to hire them and then let them go for lack of productivity, for not showing up.
Well,
it's been very difficult to get.
Also, I don't need, how many work stoppages is in the last 18 months?
Work stoppage.
So you have to let your current people go make a living.
Technically one. That was just recently with the structural issues that we had up front, and we shut it down for safety reasons. The rest of the time, they weren't stoppages; they were just slow. We had to, start advertising for additional carpenters back in, I believe that was March. So it was never stopped. It was just hard to get going. I came on board a little over a year ago, before all the major structural stuff went in. And it's been a challenge since then.
Okay, thank you. So to wrap up, I'm going to vote no today if we don't come up with a third way. Not because I'm against the project. I think it was a wonderful vision. I hope it still comes to fruition. Because of my ignorance, if nothing else, I'm going to vote no, because it says the work would continue if I vote no. So I hope there might be a thought about a third way between the binary choice we were given. But if there's not, I'll vote no. But thank you for what you've done, and I hope it works out.
Thank you, Councilman Bentley. Councilman Bruns.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Councilman Bentley here. I guess I would be for the amended extension on the condition that we can ensure it's the final extension. And that might mean something like a provision added to the contract where the taxes are paid back to the city if it's not complete by the final date. And as a sign of good faith, I'm even open to the idea of extending the final date out to say December 31st, 2025, but we can't be in the business of more and more extensions on things like this.
Thank you, Councilman Bruns. Councilman Flynn.
I would echo Councilman Bruns on that point. And I don't know if this is a completely different category, but I do know, for example, that when MDOT bids out some sort of a job on a state highway, that crew has until, say, the end of September or whatever to finish that job. And if they don't finish it by that time, then it's out of their pocket to finish it. And, MDOT says, we pay you until this. I'm all for the Kiefer Hotel project to be completed. It's to that point where, the whole city's gonna have egg on their face if they there's gotta be where CL Red and the construction crew says, okay, if we're not done by this date, now it's gonna be out of our pocket. And I would echo maybe also that, I was told when we took our tour that they're hoping to have heads in the beds, as they say, by the 4th of July, but I would agree with Mr. Bruns that if we give them one last extension, let's give it to December 31st, 2025 and say, that's it. We're giving you a year, get her done.
Thank you, Councilman Flynn. Councilman Wolfram, thank you.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Geltzer, as head of the TIFA, what his thoughts are on the extension.
Thank you, Andrew.
Certainly, hello. So from TIFA's perspective, if CL was not doing what it is doing right now, that building would have fallen over long since. Manager Mackey, do you remember the approximate cost for the city demolishing the building next to St. Anthony's?
It was a little over $100,000, and that's probably, it was 200?
Yes.
Okay. The Kiefer Hotel and its associated buildings are significantly larger than that. I would assume then that the cost to remove that building falling over would be significantly more, number one. Number two, the project being in existence in downtown Hillsdale has sparked a huge wave of investment and interest in downtown. There have literally been bidding wars on buildings downtown, directly associated with the Kiefer Hotel project. Speaking from personal experience, taking an Oprah, being granted an Oprah from the city for our new hardware store. Excuse me. It was supposed to be a 6-month project. It took 4.5 years. And that was me knocking over some cinder blocks and building a steel structure, one room. The complexity of my project compared to theirs is, it's hard to compare those apples to apples. And then lastly, the city has not incurred cost to this project happening in our downtown. The local businesses, traffic through there, has borne a cost. And you'll notice that the neighbors are not up here complaining. Other businesses are not up here complaining. We are all in support of this project happening. And I would very much urge you to vote in favor of this. They are on the tail end of this project. Is there any other, did that answer your question, Councilman Wolfram?
Yes, in fact, my understanding was that, exactly as you pointed out, had this not happened, then the entire structure would have collapsed, because it was discovered that there were structural failures, which they had to put these metal beams in, right, to structure up the walls. And then in the front of the building after that. And so, you know, I think that I'm in complete support of extending this. It doesn't cost us anything in the fact that what would be the taxable value if you walked away from it today, right? The taxable value is going to be zero. Whereas if they complete the thing, then we will have gained a tremendous amount. So I don't see moving up the taxable value to the like, even if we just said, okay, it's done, goes tomorrow, we're going to get zero in property taxes. And so if that affects their ability, you know, if ending the Oprah affects their ability to make the thing work, because the day that they open up, then they'd have to have actually to complete the thing, it's going to cost them a whole lot of money right on the first opening of it, because all of a sudden they'll have this real high property tax. So extending it out doesn't cost us anything, but it allows them to have a greater ability to actually make the thing happen.
Councilman Stuchel.
I'd just like to add, as far as being TIF as well, this is nothing more than an administrative play on our part. This is not cost the city a nickel. This company has poured millions of dollars into this, and even though we've had a couple extensions, you can say for yourself how close they are. And this is a shining tool, a gem for downtown Hillsdale. This is nothing but an administrative play. This is not a power play on any place. And if we wrinkle this up, it could derail things and push things out and cause people to scratch their head and go, wait a minute, this council's anti-business, anti-development, really? Because of a date of 6-7 months? I realize we've had this a couple times, but my goodness sakes, they're dealing with a building that's well over 100 years, and every time Nick moves a brick, there's, oh my goodness sakes, what's this? They have hung in there, they've stuck with it, and they poured millions of dollars into downtown Hillsdale. We cannot say no because we don't like this date, and we've done it a couple times. This is just an administrative play for the state, that's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, gentlemen, especially Andrew. I really appreciate your perspective. So I've been part of this project from the beginning. I was on the TIFA board when we bought the buildings from the previous owner. The previous owner had great intentions, but the building sat idle and continued to sit idle. And when CL Enterprises came in, I don't know if any of you were at the launch of this project years ago, but the main architect was so grateful to the city for being willing to take a chance to restore a beautiful building like that, because as you're well aware, buildings like that aren't built anymore. And when we got inside and they dug out the basement, we hit a well, an underground.
You hit half of Hillsdale's
groundwater. Yeah, thank you. Groundwater. And we couldn't get machinery down there, so it all had to be done by hand. And we couldn't find laborers who were willing to do the work because it was so hard work. We found some people that came from Wisconsin, and then they were like, we can get a job back in Wisconsin, so they went home. And it left us hanging with water in our basement that we had to figure out how to relieve, which we finally did that. And that building is now, the way that the basement is with the wells and the tiles and the drains, it's, the water's never going to be, should not be a problem in the future. And then we found out that the way that the beams were on the building, the center beams that were holding up the weight of the building held up the first floor, and then the successive floors were in the middle of the floors. And so there was a 1 foot sag from the wall to and the building would have collapsed in on itself. And CL Enterprise, when they found that, they didn't walk away, they didn't cut their losses. They said, no, we're going to invest in infrastructure, we're going to put more beams down, we're going to buy steel, we're going to put steel in to reinforce this building's going to outlast our children's 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 children. It's going to stand for the next 200 years because we've done it right. I walked through it today. The reason that the front pillars moved, they thought the front pillars were decorative. No, they're part of the structural support of the building, and they were sitting on top of a door. And the door was built to be a door, not to support 3 stories of brick and mortar and all the weight there. And when all this new weight comes in with the steel, and this is not, I'm not an architect or a builder, but I'm just assuming it was too much, and they were able to catch it. This is the beauty of the professionalism of the team that was there. They walked out the front door, and they saw the pillars had moved. They were cognizant of that, and instead of just ignoring it, they said, no, we're gonna shut things down. Well, when they shut things down a month ago, they had to lay off their workers. The workers needed to work, so they found other projects, but they got all those workers back. So these men are committed to the project. They're committed to the effort. And if I would remind you again what I said at the beginning, the architect was praising us for endeavoring to keep this piece of American history. It's going to be a beautiful staple. And if we say no to this extension, we're putting doubt in the minds of Seal Enterprises that we're willing to continue to have them complete the project. I'm all in on this. If I have to extend it 10 more times, I will extend it 10 more times. Because these men, they've spent $4 million more than they projected just on the infrastructure, and they're not done yet. And who's going to walk away from an $11 million investment? Who's going to say, oh, you know, darn it, that was a good idea, but I guess we're done now because we've hit 11.5, and you know, I was done at 11.4,990. I don't see that happening. These men in front of me are men that I've known of integrity, especially Andrew Gelser and his investment and desire to see the community be improved. And it's just really, for me, I'm frustrated by the potential there's a 4-4 tie tonight. I'm frustrated by the gentlemen who, to your own admission, are ignorant of how everything works and how everything's tied together. And because of that ignorance, you're just going to say, okay, I'm done with an 8-year trial. I'm washing, the city's washing their hands of this 8-year investment in this time to restore and have this renaissance in downtown. Before the business Hillsdale Renaissance, people were talking about a renaissance in downtown Hillsdale, and at the Kiefer House and the Dawn Theater and those projects were going to be a big integral part of it. And our city has a magnificent, we're on the precipice of a launch into a bright and beautiful future where we are able to draw people from the surrounding, you know, the 14 million or so that are within a 3-hour drive to come here because we have everything to offer. And having a beautiful centerpiece downtown that has been rehabilitated to its historic, I mean, I walked through there today. That door that was in the basement that was failing, it's a big steel reinforced concrete wall now. It's not going to move. All of the upper floors are tied into the walls with anchors so that they won't move because they realized, oh, well, with all this new construction, the building's wanting to pull apart from itself. And so they've made sure that that's not going to happen. And I would just urge you that want to vote no to reconsider your choice tonight and just in solidarity with me for this. And if in September we have to come up against this again, we can have that discussion again. But I urge you just to show CL Enterprises, God, thank you for investing an extra $4 million above what you budgeted. Thank you for telling us in writing and to our face that you're willing to continue. And we hope and look forward to walking through there and celebrating on opening day. Oh, and I'm voting yes.
Thank you, Councilman Saul. Councilman Morrissey. Thank you.
I just a general comment. Before I came to Hillsdale 25 years ago, I was the director of the Monmouth County, New Jersey Historical Commission, which did matching grants for historic preservation projects such as this. And the idea that the difference between this and typical sort of remodeling of a house or something of that nature is the amount of money that it takes. Because once you dig into these historic properties, you don't know what you're going to find, but it's not going to be good. And it's going to be expensive. That's one thing. The other thing is time.
We had projects, we did it a little bit differently. We would, if someone was doing a project, it would be on a yearly basis, so they'd do one piece that was, for that year, and the next, and it was incremental, but we were committed to it. Some of those projects went on for 10, 15 years, but we were consistent with it. But my point is just very simple. I haven't said much about this project over the years. I've been on the council pretty much the whole time it's been up. And the reason I haven't is that I've been pretty calm about it. It's this sort of thing is normal in these kinds of projects. It's nothing new to me.
Thank you, Councilman Morrissey. Councilman Bruns.
Councilman Soha, I think I was pretty clear that I would vote yes if those of you in support are willing to talk about terms of the contract. So I can't speak for any of the others, but I've laid it out there. I'm a yes if we can put measures into the contract to make this the final extension, and I'm willing to be flexible on that to make it happen.
Thank you, Councilman Bruns. Is that a movement, Councilman Bentley?
Councilman Soha, I am not pointing fingers at anyone, and nor am we relentlessly go back to the beautiful vision of 5 years ago. What's done is done. I have questions going forward, and the part about everybody scoffing at me about we're losing money somehow. Had the project finished miraculously in 2021, would the city and the city's taxes and the city downtown have been 3 years better off? I don't know the answer to the taxes, but clearly, if it were done, we'd all be happier. So I don't agree that we don't have any skin in the game, and it's hard to vote in solidarity with you, Councilman Soha, when you just admitted that you would give them 10 more extensions. Perhaps this is a bad analogy, but if a homeowner, the city, hires a contractor to do a job, they don't sit back and say how beautiful it's going to be, how beautiful it's going to be for 5 years. I don't understand. And as far as threatening to quit, I don't think CL's threatening to quit, and I'm not threatening to quit. I'm just saying I'm not ready to vote yes tonight when we haven't explored other options. And one of the possible options, this is not my business, I'm not a subject matter expert on any of this, but I understand there are performance bonds, and if benchmarks aren't hit, then as Councilman Bruns put forward, some financial penalties are in order. This infinite patience for a beautiful vision of a renaissance of Hillsdale, I can't necessarily buy into that. I think it's a beautiful vision, and we'll see what happens, but it's kind of our responsibility to hold ourselves and our partners accountable. And there doesn't seem to be any accountability in any of this. So end rant there. Parking. Can you tell us about parking?
We do not have parking specifically for the Kiefer. It would be the spaces around town. We'll have a drop-off loading zone on North, but there's no specific parking.
Are we, as city council or the city staff, considering what a headache that is for the guests of the hotel and for the rest of the town?
The Midtown and United Methodist lot are there, and those usually have quite a bit of free space, if that's what you're thinking. Follow-up, Councilman Wolfram?
Well, we're not doing anything other than making it so that it's feasible for them to operate in that first year, because as they've pointed out, they're losing. They only have it for the 12 years, so they only have so many years left. And if we extend it, it doesn't give them more than the 12 years. We're just extending
we could say, okay, we're taking the Oprah away. So they're still only getting the extra, they're still only getting the deferment of the taxes for the same length of time as when they started out. And so my concern is that if they were to, we're making it more difficult for them to make the operation work, because in that first year, if what we do is we say, okay, it's over, and so now they don't get that extra 2 years or 3 years that they otherwise would have had, then they might have a big property tax bill in that first year when they're trying to get operational. And so that, I think, is the key here. The city's not giving up anything, but if we do something that makes it harder for them to operate, then we will be giving up a lot. And as been pointed out, and also I think we're the only city in the country that the whole downtown is the National Historic District. And this is a National Historic building from 1885, as is the Dawn Theater as well. So I just wanted to point out that A, we're not really giving up any tax dollars here, and B, we're making it, by doing this, by approving this, we're making it easier for them to make sure that they will continue to go ahead and know that they can still operate and make enough money to survive that first year.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfram. Councilman Stuchel.
I just want to address Jacob's question. I mean, can we change this date to December? Does it hurt anything to do that?
Should I address that real quick? So the end of September would be the deadline for staff to have time to get it to you to revoke it for the 2026 tax year.
No, to answer the question, can we move to December 25?
That's what I'm telling you. If you put the deadline at December of 2025, then it wouldn't be revoked until 2027 if they miss that deadline. So anything to be revoked has to be into the state tax commission by the end of October in 2025.
Okay, that's my question. What can we change this date to that meets your needs?
What September 30th would be what we would need.
Okay, so we can't change it then.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying? I mean, I'm just
If you
trying to answer.
want to be able to revoke it for the next tax season.
So the 25th gives us the ability to revoke it if it comes back again.
Right.
Okay. Is that your answer?
It sounds like we could change it to later on. It would just mean it would be revoked later on.
Yes, legally, if you made the revocation date the end of December of 2025, and you subsequently revoked it because they didn't hit the deadline, it would be another tax year, 2027, because of the way the tax years work.
So this
because
is
the tax tribunal actually has to act on your recommendation,
right? So
and then revoke it.
But this basically would be our last one. I mean, we could say that.
You could say that.
I mean, then you come back again, and then we have this debate again. But this theoretically, for everybody at this table right now, this is the last time we're doing this. We could say that.
You're the council. Yes, you're
Well,
free to say that.
I mean, to answer your question, I mean, to put that limit in, to put them in a box, okay, we need it. And so if they don't get it, they come back again, then we have this debate all over again.
Thank you, Councilman Bentley.
Where's the language or the enforcement? Councilman Sohat just said there is no limit. So.
No, there is a limit. This expires on the 25th, and they'd have to come back again. And so we would have the same meeting again. So.
As presumably we've had before, some of us.
Yeah, I want to say this is my third time on council, and I thought there was one before. Okay. 2 points. I don't think it's free. My calculation is that we are abating $350,000, and the demolition cost of that building, as well as its historical value and economic value, exceeds that cost. But that doesn't mean it's free. It's costing us something. I don't like when we use that language up here, like for Three Meadows. That's not free. Nothing is free that we do. Okay. Second point, taxes are frozen, to answer your question, yes, But of course, the economic value would have increased if it had been done in 2021, if that's what we're basing our calculation off of. But I'm basing my calculation purely off the externality. What would be the cost of demolishing the building? What I think I've said this every time it's come up, and I'll say it again, what I think should be in the contract is mandatory clawback dates. Not 100% set deadline, but you don't meet September, it's a 10% clawback. You don't meet the next year extension, it's another 10%. What's that? And that's what I'm saying. All of these Oprahs, we should have that written into it.
So some of the,
Oprahs don't have contracts.
yeah, some of the tax abatement, legislation carries with it a contractual agreement, right? Like the industrial facility tax. So this is different. The statute just provides for a certificate that's issued by the tax tribunal, which certificate, at the time you adopt the resolution asking for the certificate, for the issuance of it, you put, there's a completion date, right? And that's the thing that you're amending, is just that completion date. There is no overarching contract between the city and.
There's no clawback on it.
Yeah, there's no ability to do that.
We can't add an addendum, we can't enter into a separate contract for something else that contains those provisions.
The statute does not permit that.
There's gotta be a workaround there.
That would be a legislative change, so contact your legislature.
We can't tie it to any other aspect of the project.
I suppose sometimes I can find ways to do things if I know what it is you want to do, right? So if there was at some point in time something someone wanted to do, I could certainly investigate whether there's a way to address that. In terms of the statute itself, and given the fact that you've already had the certificate issued, I think you're, at this point, I don't know that there's anything you could do. It strikes me that might have to be something that would have to be discussed at the time that you were considering approving a resolution in the future for some other Oprah certificate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the real problem, that these all should be written into the contract so we don't have this straight yes or no vote. I don't think anyone wants to vote no just to kill it, but we all want real deadlines that come with some sort of sanction that doesn't kill the project but shows, the main thing is here, the city needs to enforce its contracts. We don't go yes and no all the time when citizens are negotiating things with us. There's just a deadline and that's the end of it. And we should carry that out through everything that we do.
But that's not where we're at today.
Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I appreciate the debate. I understand the frustration. But another example of an unintended setback is there was an outbuilding built behind, what's the number?
96 Hall.
96 Howell, which is the building next door to the Kiefer that CL bought, in addition to the Kiefer, to add long stay suites that are going to be beautiful on the second and third floor, and then there will be retail on the first floor. And behind that building was an outbuilding that they were going to use as their
The main electrical room.
main electrical room. So they ran all the electrical there. Well, then they were going to reinforce the walls in the main electrical room and do some updating, and they realized that room wasn't built to code. The foundation was flimsy, and it wasn't.
There was no foundation.
I stand corrected. There was no foundation, and so they couldn't use the room. Well, now you have a dilemma. You've run all the electrical there. What do? Do you reroute all the electrical at a tremendous extended cost? Or what they're doing is they've demolished that outbuilding that wasn't built to code, and they're building a new electrical room that will be able to suffice the needs of the project. But I don't need to know how long, but there's another unexpected delay, extra expense to demolish another building, and these things have been commonplace on this project time after time after time. And it's not, CL Enterprises wishes they had been done 2 years ago, because they would be making more money with a quicker return on their investment, right? They're not intentionally trying to drag this out, and like I said earlier, the fact that they've committed and are still committed to this after every single drawback tells me they're a tremendous friend to the community and the city, and I want to see it done. And the reason I was so strongly worded in my I would vote in perpetuity for this, I don't know if I really would do that or not, but I just wanted to emphasize that I want us as council to tell them we are going to see this through with you. To September, I mean, it just seems to me, with all of the unexpecteds, you know, who expects the main pillars in the front of a building to move 1.5 inches, right? I mean, that's just, how do you account for that? They had engineers come in and assess the building and the project for what it would take to make sure this project was viable and they could do it in a certain amount of time. And the engineer can't look into the walls and see what's going to be revealed. They removed all the tin and exposed the ceiling so that they could do work there. Well, now they've had to build a skeleton infrastructure so that when they put the tin back, it'll have something to adhere to, because they have to put fireproof drywall up there now because they exposed it, so it's not grandfathered in anymore. Well, I mean, these are all just, you know, all that wood, there's extra expenses, and it's just, it's going to be magnificent and visionary, and I know it's hard, but Tifa had already bought the building, and so it was off the tax rolls. So the city was receiving nothing, and Tifa had the burden of maintaining it. And CL Enterprises came in, and you've been paying the taxes since 2019, or 2020, is that correct? Yeah, so the city is receiving income on the building at the assessed rate, which it will continue to receive until 2032. And whether CL Enterprises completes it by 2032 or not, that's coming off the roll. And it'll be reassessed at its taxable value in 2032, whether CL Enterprises owns the building or not, whoever owns it. And then it'll go to the fully assessed taxable value, and we'll receive the full value of the income there. I appreciate your positions about, you know, having consequences and stuff, but this was approved and is what it is as far as the rules. And CL Enterprises without this would not have engaged in the project.
I'd just like to add one thing. Everyone at the table is saying they don't want to kill this project. Well, no vote will potentially do that. We do have a way out, because the 30th of September, like to your point, Josh, you know, we need these letters sooner so we can start the conversation quicker. Well, if we vote yes for this when we pass it, if something goes crossways again, which is a possibility, we're asking CL to get this letter to us in July, June, whenever that is, as soon as possible, so we can look at other options. But a no vote now does not benefit anybody. It's a power play. And all this is an administrative thing, but we have until September 30th to make that hard line. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councilman Sidwell. Councilman Wolfram.
I would just like to point out what Councilman Soha said, is that we're not encouraging them by delaying this and saying, okay, we'll extend it one more year. That they're not, it's not to their interest to delay it. They give up their tax abatement for every year that they miss. And so it's not something where, well, gee, they're trying to put us off, and so we just say, okay, do it again, do it again. It's a harm to them from not completing it. So our approving the extension of one more year doesn't encourage them to go ahead and just, not be adamant about constructing the building, because that's a cost to them.
Thank you, Councilman Bentley.
Forgive me, but Councilman Stuchel called me out, so I need to address it. I'm not making a power play. I feel like you all and CL Red and the city have known about this for months. I just got on council, I don't know anything about anything, and now I'm going to bring the fire down from heaven. If I vote no, I'll be voting no.
Councilman Flynn.
With all that said, I would make a motion to adopt the proposed resolution.
Motion on the floor to adopt the proposed resolution from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Soha. Any further discussion? I would like this to be 8-0. It doesn't seem like we're gonna have that. Well, what are the chances you find something that would be amenable to all parties?
I'm not sure what it is you would want me to find.
My
assumption is that you're not going to be able to do anything because the certificate has already been issued. So it's not as though you're sort of negotiating whether or not this is something that might be available to you because you're coming in and you want to get an Oprah certificate, which incidentally, it looks like absent legislation after December 31st of 2026, you're not going to be able to issue any more of these anyway. But that's current sunset provision, it looks like, in the act. But I don't think you have any ability to do that. This isn't like the IFT certificate where you actually have a written contract. And because of that, and because of the way, as I'm looking through the statute here, I don't see a way that you could really do anything because the certificate has already been issued, and the only thing that you can do is address the revocation date, right? Which is that they haven't, there are two different things, grounds upon which, either that they didn't complete it by the completion date, or because the holder of the obsolete property exemption certificate has not proceeded in good faith with the operation of the rehabilitated facility in a manner consistent with the purposes of this act, and in the absence of circumstances that are beyond the control of the holder of the exemption certificate. So that's the other ground upon which you could revoke it. Whether or not you could have a contractual statement with respect to that, I don't think you can, because the standard that they give you is, the act itself.
Okay. Councilman Bruns.
Yeah, I'm going to vote no. I would strongly prefer to address this at the first meeting in January and give the city attorney time to investigate other things that we could do. But that's why I would vote no and will vote no.
Same.
If there is an investigation of other options, and there are no other options, would that satisfy you?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, well, I can guarantee the state is not gonna act before January 6th, so if we want an 8-0 and we wanna investigate this, we can push it back. What else? What else do we need? You wanna sponsor some parades downtown for us?
I'm not gonna say no, but let me go back and ask.
If we could get a couple parades sponsored, I think we would solve all issues at once for a few $1,000s. So we have a motion and a second. Councilman Stuchel?
I just wanna make sure we're not doing something we shouldn't be doing by pushing this out. Are we okay to do that? I mean, the vote. Can we wait till January to vote on this?
Well, I guess the state technically could act over the new year. That seems completely implausible. Kim?
So we wouldn't be able to revoke it until after January 1st anyway, because their deadline is December 31st, so.
Yeah, so the state's not gonna act, so we can talk about this later, but we do have a motion. So if you wanna reconsider it, have the attorney address other options, we would have to vote no on this motion. Okay, but no, yes. Okay, so we have the votes.
just seeing this for the first time, and so. Yes, we have new people on the council that are just seeing this for the first time. But I think that what we ought to do is vote and approve this, and then we can bring it, maybe it comes up next year, who the hell knows, because maybe the whole building falls down because God struck it or
There's
something
nothing
like
that's
that.
gonna fall down on that.
But anyway, then we can talk about this to the new councilman next time.
Right, I just think they're thinking they're not gonna get their say if we just vote now. Well, they will, they'll just say no. Councilman Bentley?
No, that is exactly the issue. We are giving up whatever leverage we have right now if we do that. I'm just curious, Mayor Pro Tem, why are you set on an 8-0?
This is constantly divided, and I don't really see the reason for it. Every time this comes up, it just seems like we can find a way that there can be total unanimity, and then hopefully there will be less irritation about the project, and we can explain to the people, hey, we came to this unanimous decision because all different opinions were heard. Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote.
So is this to approve? Okay, sorry, I'm kind of lost here. Okay, Councilmember Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey. Soha. Stuchel. Wolfram. Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
and Bentley.
No.
6-2, it's approved. Resolution 3621.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Appreciate your time. Great discussion. I really think both sides have good points. Yeah. Let's approach CL about sponsoring some parades or something. Build up the goodwill. Very cheap. You've spent $17 million. What's $1,000 parade, right? That's nothing. That's beans. Okay. Item letter B. 2025 poverty exemption guidelines for property taxes. Kim sat down too soon.
Yes, so annually, council needs to adopt the guidelines for the Board of Review to follow in considering poverty exemptions. Essentially, we have two parts of the test. The first one is the income limits. By default, we can go no lower than the federal poverty guidelines. We can set those income limits higher so we can make it easier to qualify, but we can't make it harder on the income side. The asset test is strictly up to us. What we've done with that, because the state law allows for a 25% exemption, 50% exemption, or 100% exemption. So we used the asset test to determine what percentage of exemption they would qualify in the way that we wrote the guidelines.
Thank you. Any questions for Kim? Great. How many applications did you get last year?
We've had 4 this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
More than last year?
Yeah.
2?
Last year, I think we had 2.
Yeah. Okay. Motion?
Move to approve.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Mowing contract extension. Is Jason still here? Hi, Jason. Thank you.
Hello again. The contract extension is the 4th-year option of our current 3-year contract that expired this last fall. It does cover all city mowing, including both cemetery, Oak Grove, Lakeview. With the 4th-year option, they do, both contracts have to honor the 3rd-year pricing. Bill's Lawn Care, that does all our building grounds, parking lots, traffic islands, parks, roadsides, and fields mowing, approximately 107 acres, is a price at $80,871. Contract 2 with TKC Lawn, Snow and Wood, They mow about 43 acres at Oak Grove and Lakeview Cemetery, and do all weed whipping at both cemeteries as well for 3 holidays of the year, for a cost of $57,980. With these contract being on the 4th year, I do recommend, or city staff recommends, to approve the 4th year extension and to go out for bid after this is completed. Remember, these numbers were put in about 3 years ago as projections. I do project that these costs are gonna go up at some price. With that, I would ask for council to approve as presented.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions or comments from council? Councilman Flynn.
Jason, just a quick question. Why 2 contracts? Can nobody do, one company couldn't do all of this?
Yeah, so everything, there's the contract one, which is the city mowing. We bid it out in sections to get the best pricing.
Oh, okay.
So TKC came in about 10,000 cheaper on the mowing for the cemeteries than Bill's Lawn Care did.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we sectioned it off, and there's another contractor who does BPU mowing that came in way under these 2 for that one as well.
Okay, thank you.
Break it up into 3.
Thank you.
And Jason, correct me, doesn't TKC do more? They do the weed eating and other things that's not in the other contract? Right?
Correct.
There's additional.
So they do, yes, all the weed whipping at Oak Grove, and I'm glad you brought that up, sir. We used to do that in-house, and it took our staff, all of our staff member we had there all week to weed whip that. So that's been a huge savings for us to have them come in and do that. We do it, it's about $13,000 for us to weed whip those cemeteries 3 times a year. So with that savings alone, basically the mowing's, in that very much more.
Any other questions? I also asked about this contract. Another contract we can't amend because it's an optional 4th year, retaining the original terms. Things that I wanted to look for here were possible extensions in how often we mow during certain periods. So during the hotter months when it's dry, potentially you actually want a taller grass that can retain moisture, better for the environment. So I wanted to look next year at extending this possibly to 10 days or even 2 weeks during some of the really hot, dry months. I also just wonder if we have target heights that we're mowing toward, or if we're just sort of mowing weekly. The other big thing I would like to explore, especially on the roads, traffic islands, parking lots, would be native grasses, things that you only have to mow a couple times a year, but are also better for wildlife, for insects, and would cut down on cost. Just got to I want to explore every possible option, both financially to bring down costs as well as to steward the natural environment as well as we are able.
And I believe we can do that in the next contract. The only thing I think would affect where we want to try to keep on those keen or heights is, Field of Dreams, anywhere that's recreational. But I think we definitely can explore some other options in the next contract for sure.
Great, thank you, Jason. We will talk about that at Public Services, Manager Mackey.
I was just going to say, one of the downsides we have found from using native grasses down on South Howell, where we've got the drainage basin there, apparently the wildflowers we use to seed that are very sought after from the deer. So they actually jump the fence and go down there and eat the flowers. So that's kind of a consequence of using things that are tasty to them. So
okay, yeah, we should explore all the options, consider all those different factors, both for cost and natural environment, if everyone's okay with that in the future. But for now, I think we're locked in. Any other council comments or questions? I have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Soha. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Jeez. 2025 City Council meeting dates. We're sticking with the first and third Monday of the month except for the dates listed, Martin Luther King Jr. and Labor Day. Will everyone be back in town by January 6th? We gonna have a quorum for that meeting? Okay, we can keep that one. Any questions, comments, amendments here? Motion to approve. Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Dial-a-ride fare increase. Jason, again, thank you.
Get my steps in tonight. So we talked, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Palladino, about how to lower our general fund contribution through the years. I would like to kind of start backwards, if you don't mind. Our 2023-4 budget, we had expenditure of $412,595. We had 10,672 gallons of fuel we used that year as well, with only 25,864 fares. 2024-25, we went from 412 down to 399,000. That's a difference of $12,449. Our fares that we had went up from just under 3,000 to 28,160. We also went down 1,000 gallons of fuel as well that year to 9,700. So we're making some progress. Our proposed budget this year, we're at 401,907, a difference of 2,261. That is from increases from union contracts primarily. The operating budget is primarily the same. This year we're also working on doing some advertising for the dollar ride. Excuse me, we projected about 36,000 in advertising. The 50 cents that we increased the current fares back in May generated us another 13,000 roughly and some change. Some conversation, we're looking at just fare increases or other options, but I do believe we're on the right track right now. Since we talked, I have looked at other municipalities, and we are currently about 50 cents over any municipality in the state of Michigan right now. So that is something that definitely need to take care of. I am finding that a lot of other municipalities are using millages to implement for these general fund contributions instead of a true general fund contribution. ALBN, Marshall, Coldwater, etc. So we can definitely send this. My recommendation is send this to the local advisory committee that's going to be meeting the first 2 weeks of January, and we can bring it then to the public service committee.
Thank you, Jason. One thing that just came to mind, would this be something that the senior center millage could possibly contribute towards, since this is a statute and a service for seniors primarily?
So not primarily, it's seniors, any disadvantages as well. Right. So as when we talk about our funding, it's for the disadvantaged as a whole, disability regardless of the age, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But definitely they are Meals on Wheels. They have some of their own volunteers as well that do their transportation for them.
Yeah, the tough thing here is that, again, council should have been increasing this a nickel, 10 cents a year every year for the past 30 years, and we haven't been. So now we have the problem of we fund this fully and establish our commitment to rebuild the infrastructure with that money, which is going to be tough on people to do this all at once. But it is still fairly heavily, this would put us at $4.50 or $5.
This would put us at, I did do a projection on this, I apologize. So an adult would go from $3.50 to $6.
Oh, $6, wow.
Correct, so it's
Okay.
quite the change, and it would put us.
Oh, because we increased it last year too.
Yeah, so we're about an 87% increase with anything more with what the 250 increase. And again, it puts us 87%, if not. Just for instance, Coldwater, their senior citizens pay 67 cents.
Wow.
We're paying $2.
And what is the total amount of subsidization? In other words, what would the cost be if we were paying for this program out of city funds per ticket?
Per ticket, just under $17 a ticket.
17?
$17 a ticket. Correct.
Oh, okay. I thought we said 13 or 14 last time. So it will still be subsidized about $11 a ride.
Correct.
Again, it's just a question of priorities.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bailey, 1450 is what it was.
Oh, okay.
You're correct, I'm so sorry.
1450.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's subsidized. It'll still be subsidized about $8.50 per ride. Okay. So if there are any comments or questions, Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Jason, the city's not fully responsible for the $8.50 subsidy. There is a considerable federal and state funding for the dial-a-ride, correct?
Okay, we get about 52% between the federal and state in reimbursement for that as well. Our subsidy on that's roughly with the with our advertiser about 109 to 120,000 would be our contribution for this budget year.
Thank you.
What did we put into local streets, by the way, last year from the general fund?
Let me look at that. I don't want to give you a bad number because that one usually we run in the red and we have to pull some money from the majors to there. So.
Okay, I want to say it was 70,000.
Correct.
It's again one of these things. We say our top priority is infrastructure, and then we're putting more into dial-a-ride than our local streets from the general fund. Of course, we're getting grants that are and millages that are more than that. Yes, Councilman Morrissey.
Yeah, how is this calculated? In other words, $2.50 fare increase will generate 68,000. How was that calculated?
So that was calculated off our ridership from last year of the 28,160 riders at $2.50 an increase per ride.
So in other words, you didn't calculate whether people will reduce their ridership.
No, sir, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Because of the increase in the fare.
Yes, sir.
So that's not necessarily what we're going to get out of this.
That is, if everything went perfect, and I don't believe that could be the case, so.
What was the change in ridership from last year to this year after the increase that we put into effect last year?
So, because it's only been since January, but we are seeing an increase on the average of a month of 250 people per month. Or, I'm sorry, fares. I don't want to say people, fares.
Oh, so we increased the cost, but we actually had more riders this year?
Correct.
Huh.
Correct. So,
Okay.
it affected the school more than everything, and I would like to share a nice conversation I had with the nice elderly lady. She had no choice. It is to pay the 50 cents or go, but if it's any more than that, then they have to make true decisions on what to do with fixed incomes. So to her, the 50 cents was just minuscule because she had no choice.
So we discussed the $2.50 because with the additional advertising revenue, that was projected to be about but revenue neutral if we fill up the extra buses.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the target goal that we have. Now we can kick this to dial-a-ride and then to public services after that to discuss it both with the advisory committee and with council. If nothing else, if the committee isn't amenable to that, we can phase it in over time. But I do think we should stay on top of that. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Flynn.
Was it, when you guys were talking numbers, did you come up with if we raised it another 50 cents, we'd make this, another $1, we'd make this, or did you just jump right to $2.50?
I just went $2. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, that was the revenue neutral position. We did calculate, it's a subsidized project, so it doesn't have to be totally revenue neutral. But when we're putting $130,000 into it out of, a $5 million budget, that's pretty substantial. So yeah, we can. Maybe you could bring in 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2, and the different shortfalls that would create.
Yeah, because I do agree with you. This should have been done 30 years ago. Like you say, a dime a year, a quarter a year, and then nobody would have a problem with it.
Great. Do we need a motion to send this to the? Okay, motion to send it to the Dial-a-Ride Local Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Bruns. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, that is you again. Letter F, Hillsdale County Community Foundation grant approval.
This will be quick. All right. To assist in underground survey work in portion of Lakeview and Oak Grove Cemetery, in addition to locating underground utilities throughout the city, the Department of Public Services, with the Cemetery Board approval, applied for a grant with the Hillsdale Community Foundation in October 2024 for one ground penetrating radar unit. The grant is in the amount of $24,545, and this would cover 100% of all costs for the purchase in addition to all applicable software. A notice for the grant approval was received in my office on December 10th. There are special conditions of the grant that it would be available for countywide use at a reasonable operating rate, as this need for the radar unit in other cemeteries located in the county is definitely usable. Staff does recommend with the cemetery board for city council to approve the agreement with the Hillsdale Community Foundation for the grant 009104 and authorize myself, DPS Director Jason Blake, to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councilman Flynn.
Does this price include training on how to use the unit and staff hours when they are using this, or would this be operated by somebody completely different?
Nope, this will be one person in staff. It's them come down, so many hours of training with our staff. All software, it's for, I believe it's for the life of the software too, so any updates through the years we will get on that. So that will be, this unit will be ran only by our staff and our staff alone. So if it is going out with the special conditions, it will go with the unit and go with our employee. We do ask, I've talked with our sexton, we just want to recoup 100% of our costs that we have into assisting other counties.
If we allow another township, another city to use this for cemetery usage or whatever, since it's our unit and our guy, would we then charge that entity our time and effort?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Cost plus?
Pardon me?
Cost plus?
Cost plus 10%.
Thank you.
Pretty much, it's kind of like when we go through Jonesville, I've swept reading before, they get a bill from us with 10% of minute cost on top.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Blake? Okay, motion?
Approve the grant approval. Or move to allow Jason Blake to sign the grant approval on behalf of the city from the Community Foundation for this this tool to locate underground utilities.
Support.
Motion from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Flynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. If I may add one more thing, Mayor Pro Tem, this is something that we've been trying to get for years, as many sections of our cemetery, as the records don't follow with the cars, the computers, to help to find loved ones in the cemetery or the locations. So I'm hoping to do multiple sections over, as long as we can over the next 5-10 years to help a lot of people out with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it.
That's the end of new business. Let's move into miscellaneous reports. We don't have any proclamations this week. We do have many reappointments. For Election Commission, we have Ginger Novak, Bill Mullally, and Michael Hendershot. Katie has worked with all of these folks for a year. Is this a year appointment? And will there be an election this year? Or a millage? Okay, we don't. They might not have any work, but we need to have them there. She has vouched for them. I didn't ask them to come since they're reappointments, and Katie has said they worked well with her office. So we can do them as a group or individually for the Election Commission. Group? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve Ginger Novak, Bill Mullally, and Michael Hendershot to the Election Commission from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Flynn. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Tifa Board. Mary Margaret Spiteri, Felicia Finch, and Margaret Brahman. All three are reappointments. I talked to Andrew about all of them. I talked to two of them individually. They're all willing to serve. They've already been serving into their terms, but they get to stay on until their reappointed or a replacement is made. Any questions about these three? Yes, thank you.
I sit on TIF as well, and they're all very good, so.
Great, thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Should we approve them as a group or individually? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved to approve.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha to reappoint Mary Margaret Spiteri, Felicia Finch, and Margaret Brahman to the TIFA board, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. For Board of Review, we have 2 reappointments. We still need a third. Did we get an application for that? I don't think we did.
I think Dennis was Wayne Scott.
He was waiting for a doctor's appointment to decide whether he wanted to be reappointed.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Dennis was having eyesight issues when I did it with him a few years ago. He's a good man. Okay. But we have 2 now, Becky Yeager and Carrie Laycock. Should we approve them as a group or individually? As a group. Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes,
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey to reappoint Becky Yeager and Carrie Laycock to the Board of Review, seconded by Councilman Soha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. General public comment. The podium is open to speak on anything you want.
Good evening, Council, and thank you so much for all of the hard work that you do. My name is Roxanne Fear. I've been a resident of Hillsdale for a little over 2 years. I purchased a home on Reading Avenue. Full disclosure, I am a licensed social worker in the state of Michigan. I've worked in multiple school districts, and I am also on my 2nd interview with HIS, which is hiring for the Kiefer Hotel. I have a very extensive food and beverage background. I come from Boston, Massachusetts, which is a very big city, right? And my former neighbors include both my former mayor, or former governor of the state, Charlie Baker, and our current governor of the state, Laura Healy. So I've always been involved in community. I've been looking at the Kiefer. I think it's an amazing project, but I also looked at the history of what you all have gone through with the multiple delays. And as a resident, I'm concerned about that as well. So I drive by there probably 6 times a week, and I've talked to people that are working there currently, and I've talked to Mr. Fox, and he's having an issue getting people back after the collapse of the front. But I do think that you people are being very generous and the multiple chances that you've given them to advance the project. But I think it's particularly important to keep an eye on actually what's going on. And I believe that everybody is doing an amazing job, but I do believe there are barriers to success. And if you all can help with those barriers to success, like possibly coming up with different work scenarios, different purveyors of, carpentry, of HVAC, of helping, I think that would really move along the project as well. And I feel like sometimes when I've reached out to people, there's some defensiveness, and I feel bad for that because I think this place is going to be beautiful, and I think it's going to bring Hillsdale into an era of gentrification that it deserves. Does that make sense to anybody? Yes? So I'm just asking that maybe the city council takes a little bit more of a proactive approach and looking like maybe a couple times a week at what's going on. And maybe I'm reaching out to see in what venues that I can help at. But if everybody kind of does that, I think this project will be more of a success than from the research that I've seen where they've asked for extra time and extra time and extra time, and you have all been so great at giving them extra time. But I think there does need to be some thresholds of, we need to see this, we need to see that, and maybe it's we need to see 20 professionals working daily on HVAC, on carpentry, on all of the other things. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, Andrew Gelzer is working in particular with trying to connect them with contractors. The owner of Gelzer's, he knows everyone in that field.
I know Andrew, and we talked, and he tells me he's struggling. So
Yes.
I'm trying to work with him and his lovely wife to figure those things out. But does anybody know who HIS is?
Yeah, we're not supposed to engage. They're the management company for the building. And I'm also sorry, I forgot to start your timer, but it has been 4 minutes.
Okay, we're good.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, my name is Sam Connect, resident of Hillsdale for 26 years, taught continuously at Hillsdale College for 47 years. I, by chance, saw last Thursday's issue of the Collegian newspaper. Front page article was about city council and made many references to Mayor Pro Tem and the previous mayor as well. I want to be careful and deferential to the integrity of the council and the Mayor Pro Tem in anything I might say, because I know there's every possibility that an article such as that might have misrepresented views of people covered in the article. So I'm going to limit myself simply to statements made regarding fluoride treatment of the city water. I hope that as any discussion of that comes up with the council, that all consideration will be made to gathering reports and official statements from the American Dental Association and other health professionals as are considered appropriate to the treatment of water in this city. I have every faith that the council will treat that with great care and sensitivity and looking very rationally at whether it's simply an adjustment in the amount of fluoride or what. But I just wanted to state my own concerns that fluoridation continue to whatever extent is deemed proper by the prevailing authorities on such matters. Thank you.
Shannon Gaynor, I get to finish here. I know you guys are gonna talk about the money, because you mentioned that on the meeting about what you're gonna do with this capital improvement money and the other money. I wanna know why our streets are not a priority. And if any of this money goes to those doors at the airport, I'm gonna be really angry, because the airport makes us no money. 99% of us do not use the airport. Our vehicles are being damaged on our roads. I personally avoid streets that have really bad roads. I have a big truck, and I avoid them because I can already feel the alignment of my truck going out. Our emergency vehicles, dial-a-ride, post office, utility vehicles, ambulance, we all use these roads. And every time they go down these roads, it's ruining those vehicles and slowing down the progress. Not one of you up there, I looked all of your addresses up, because I work for the county, so I can do that. None of you are gonna ever pay a $5,000 assessment. Not one of you. cause your roads are nice. But the thing is you're requiring us, the people, to pay $5,000 assessment. You're worried about stopping these assessments, but if you don't stop them now, they're gonna continue on. We have enough money to pay back those people and to stop the special assessments. If we can do $500,000 to put an airport terminal in that 99% of Hillsdale County does not use, then you can take the money and use it on our streets. Get them fixed, then you can use the money elsewhere. The money's not gonna stop, it's gonna be coming in. Also, I'd like to know what happened with the Hillsdale College money. When you guys vacated the street, they promised to give $100,000 up front, and then the $200,000 was supposed to go to an account. And I don't remember it being contingent on anything. I thought once it was vacated, the deal was made, not because of the courts. I don't know if it was contingent or not, but I'd like to know where that money is and what the stand is on where it is. That would cover 20 special assessments at $5,000. Also, since I have 45 seconds left, I hated the bag thing. I'm 64 years old, and I had a hard time hiring kids to fill bags. And I have a 64 by 130 lot with 8 trees. I have a lot of ones. So I hated the bag thing. Also, that machine you guys had, every time they used it with that, it looked like a tank, would go in my lawn, and it tore up my terrace every time that thing was on it. They put that little machine with the tracks, and it would push the leaves out. It tore up my lawn. I had to go fix it, and then they still had to rake it. This year, they didn't do that, and my yard looked really nice. And the roads itself, they actually raked the roads up where they usually leave the leaves laying.
Thank you, Shannon. I will say, Councilman Bruns currently has a lien on his house. Councilman Wolfram will be charged momentarily if he hasn't been already. And
I also paid $5,000 without needing to, and if my road is ever fixed, I'll pay $5,000 again.
And
I believe that was because, Councilman Soha suggested that we do that, and I think he's paying as well.
Yes, sir, $500 a year, so.
yes, so there are divided opinions about special assessments from people who have been hit by them. Any further public comment? Hi.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Brandon Traxler, Ward 4, a Berry Street resident actually. I wouldn't have even found out about this special assessment had it not been for our good neighbor Tim, who had started the petition and went door to door and asked us all to sign it. I'm not going to stand up here and act like I'm familiar with any of this. I'm way out of my element. I'm ignorant to all of this. I did try to brush up on some things over the weekend. I listened to some meetings on YouTube throughout my work shift today. But I was really thankful for Tim for coming around for that. A lot of us, everybody knows the economy's not great right now, and it's not a Hillsdale thing. People are struggling, and that's a lot of money to come up with. And I don't know if there was something sent out or if it got brought upon at one of these council meetings, because again, this is my first time. I've never even looked into any of this ever before. I kind of just keep to myself and I guess kind of hope for the best. But it's concerning because obviously I've listened to some of these meetings. Seems like the homeless problem is brought up very frequently. And I'm not saying that this $5,000 assessment would put somebody else out on the street, but people aren't doing well these days. I've got 4 kids, 1 in college, and there are people that are, just not doing great. And I can't imagine that this can be the only solution to something like this. I listened to one of the meetings where I had heard somebody got up to the podium and said everybody needs to chip in. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I pay my taxes every year. People aren't hunting me down to get the taxes. We are chipping in. As a member of this community, I support local business. We do fundraisers and stuff for everything else, and I don't have any solutions. I kind of always took the trusted officials. Seriously. I trusted him. So I don't have any solutions or anything. I want my voice to be heard, and I've talked to other people who are also very concerned about this. It seems as if ours is on hold for now, but I've also, I believe I heard in one of the meetings that it would have to pass 7-2, and it didn't think that was plausible at the moment. So, I mean, we may be on hold for now, but the way I took that is this could pop up again in the future. And I just feel like there's got to be something. We all pay our taxes. We're all out here trying to do our best. Before coming here and before watching and listening to the YouTube videos, I get judged a lot for my appearance, and I'm not a fan of politics or anything, so I kind of villainized this council, and I apologize for that. You would have never known that had I not admitted to this right now, but I have this thought in my head, this feeling about politics, and I don't want much or anything to really do with it. But I have changed my mind. I listened to a lot of your guys' points and everything, and it really does seem like you guys are for the people. You might not always agree and everything, but I do feel like everybody's trying to work collectively for the best interest. So I guess I'm up here just asking you if maybe we could please reconsider these special assessments for the greater good of all of the Hillsdale citizens and explore other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. McLean. How you doing?
Well, the Kiefer House, we'll start there. Had it been Mr. DuBois, I'm sure he would have been stoned in the street a few years ago. But that sure wasn't what happened with the Kiefer House tonight. I mean, when he was behind, didn't have help, boy, he was the rottenest person on earth when they were doing the street projects. And all of you would have stoned him. So that's just, treat everybody fair, You're worried about taxes. You got Folgers apartment buildings on West Street that have been condemned for over 10 years. They're paying taxes as condemned property. It's been sold twice that I know of without anybody submitting a plan, which is part of the rule. They're not supposed to do that on condemned property. They did put up photo renditions of what it was going to look like, but no plans whatsoever. You're worried about the money spent for the leaf pickup, but I haven't had one word said about the Christmas decorations. The money that goes into putting them up. I watched 5 guys, 2 trucks, work for hours decorating a tree with lights. Well, what do we need that for? That's not a necessity. Part of the people in this town probably don't even believe in Christmas. Not all religions believe in Christmas. So you're worried about leaf pickup, which I think is a necessity, but you're not worried about something like decorating the streets, which is not a necessity. Tifa gave the Kiefer House until 4/15 of 25 to get it done. That's the drop dead date that they gave them. Because Tifa's owed money from the Kiefer House. So that's where that's at. So who knows, I'm sure they'll extend their thing too, but they should at least get paid their money that they're not getting any interest on or anything. And I wonder, you talk about the electrical room, that had to be one hell of an engineer that looked at that didn't realize that didn't meet the standards. I just can't believe, but I guess that's engineers for you, And I know in the township I live in, any work done there has to be done by a Michigan licensed engineer, which makes me wonder if that was the case there. One last thing. Bob got chastised last week for asking questions of the lady that was going to be appointed to the library board. But the gentleman could chastise Fox, and that was okay. Where's the equal rights here? I guess, I don't understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any more public comment? Let's move into the city manager's report. David?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First, I want to thank Operation Good Cheer. So on Saturday, December 7th, Operation Good Cheer flew into Hillsdale Municipal Airport to deliver donated presents for children and youth in foster care here in Hillsdale County. We want to thank the Child and Family Services of Michigan for their generous support of our community. If I recall, I think there were 7 flights that came in to the community as well. Next, the BPU Best Decorated Home and Business Contest voting is now open. So the community voting for the Hillsdale BPU Utilities 2024 Best Decorated Home and Business Contest is open. Help decide the first through third place winners in each category by visiting the BPU's Facebook page and liking the photos of your choice. Voting will close on December 22nd, and the winners will be announced on December 23rd. Holiday office closures is for everyone. All Hillsdale offices will be closed Tuesday, December 24th and Wednesday, December 25th for the Christmas holiday. Regular business hours will resume Thursday, December 26th. Additionally, city offices will be closed December 31st and January 1st for the New Year's holiday. This includes the BPU, Dial-A-Ride, and Hillsdale Community Library. The Christmas tree collection, so the DPS will once again collect discarded natural Christmas trees to recycle. A curbside collection will take place Monday, January 13th. The trees will be chipped and be used for mulch in the parks and cemeteries. City crews will make 1 circuit around town, collecting from each residence. So we ask that they have their trees out by 7 a.m. on the 13th. Lastly, just wanted to report to the council that at the January 6th meeting, we will be presenting the plans and construction costs for those 3 road projects that have been proposed for next year. Monroe Street, Arch Avenue, and Berry. At that time, it will just be presenting the plans and costs to the council. It will be at a future date that will actually have the public hearing for residents to come and speak or to send their letters to. And that everyone who's involved in a district will receive a notice, and it will be advertised for that particular public hearing, which isn't anticipated to be till about the first meeting in March. And with that, I will take any questions council might have.
Thank you, Dave. Council comment.
I thought Sam was gonna say something about me being called an old man in that Collegian article, but he didn't.
I so wanted to. I'm probably older than you.
Councilman Flynn.
I would just like to bring to council's attention, Councilman Bentley brought up a good point when discussing the Kiefer building. Something that I think if we start thinking about it now, if we're proactive instead of reactive, and that's the parking situation. When I spoke with Mr. Fox, Mr. Bentley, and Mr. Morrissey and I took a tour last week, and Mr. Soha today, and parking came up. And as he said again tonight, just on the city streets, you brought up some of the lots behind. If I'm not mistaken, I remember several years ago when people were parking downtown that lived in the apartments, they got a special sticker or they got a special pass or whatever that they paid for that said, okay, you can park here because you're a resident, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do know that on a Saturday night, if all 34 rooms are filled to capacity, that's obviously 34 vehicles. Parking in the Methodist parking lot on a Saturday night is going to upset the people coming to church on Sunday when they have no place to park because all the hotel people are there. if anybody's tried to find a place to park at a council meeting on Monday nights across the street, there's a dance studio here that fills up all the parking there. There's a dance studio down the street that fills up all the parking down there. There are also the residents that live in the apartments above that park. I just think if we start thinking about it now, then if they do open around the 4th of July, by then we would have some sort of plan that says, okay, here's where we're going to park Kiefer House cars. Or, do they get a pass when they check in that day to say, okay, you put this on your visor or on your rearview mirror, you can park here. Because I know that the downtown is also signed that there's no parking, supposedly, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. So what do you do when those cars are parked there? Between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., they don't want to come out of the Kiefer and find their car has been towed. So I'm not sure which committee this would start at.
Public Services.
Public Services, but I think now would be the time to start thinking about that so that we can come up with some sort of plan instead of having 100 people on that side of the podium screaming that there's no place for them to park to do their thing because all the hotel people are parked there.
Very good, Councilman Flynn. Yeah, maybe we could designate a lot. Yeah.
Councilman Flynn, that is something that the city staff, Alan Beaker and the owners have been discussing, as well as the rest of the city staff. So it is something that's on our radar. It's not that it hasn't been looked at yet. There just isn't, as you've said, there isn't a nearby solution. We've talked about a parking service, or the hotel having a parking service to park away from the hotel. So there are a number of options out there, but it is something that will be addressed.
Thank you. Yeah, I also discussed with Jason the 2 a.m. restriction. He said the challenges of that not being enforced in January and February and March for snow removal have been pretty substantial. They have to do things twice because cars aren't moved. Any other council comment? Councilman Bentley.
I have a question about, it's related to parking. I hear rumors that we're gonna put left turn lanes in on Broad Street, for instance. Are we thinking of doing any major traffic things?
There is a road diet that's been in the discussions with MDOT, where it would reduce the lanes to slow down traffic through the downtown. That's the only thing I could think of that might be the discussion you're talking about, but that's ongoing. And Alan Beaker is our contact for that.
Thank you. I think, Councilman, that Broad Street's gonna be repaved in 26, and so the discussions on that are for Broad Street to potentially be restriped as a 3-lane with bike lanes, if I'm not, or with it, they don't necessarily have to be, I'm just saying with space on the sides to, but no, not parking.
Oh, taking away parking.
Not downtown. So Broad Street, as I understand it, from the traffic light here at Carlton all the way to the fairgrounds, it would be restriped to 3 lanes, and there would be sides. Downtown would maintain its parking, but south of Bacon would just be 3 lanes.
MDOT's pushing it, and council has a say, and council, you guys are like, you wanna do it.
We wanna make downtown walkable, it's not walkable.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I do not believe the people, and certainly not I, will no, yeah. But to be continued. Yeah, I got a lot to learn, but, yeah, I'm a refugee from Ann Arbor, and I'm not really open to any of that, so, thank you.
If I may, real quick, the plans that I've seen last was switching from 4 lanes to 3, center turn lane, you'd still have 2 8.5 to 9 foot parking lanes on both sides of the road, and then you have a 5 foot on each side bicycle lane as well. And we can put that on either side of the car. So it's kind of following suit with what Jonesville's doing as well. So no parking will be truly going away. It's that in the parking lane or the driving lane.
Jason, do you recall when Jonesville is actually doing that? Is it next year?
It's next year, sir.
Yes. Okay.
I know this is council comment and it's got a discussion, I'm sorry about that. But 12 through Jonesville is gonna be restriped to 3 lanes, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Wow, okay. So it just happened in far west Coldwater, they restriped 4 to 3 lanes, and I think it's much better. I don't think there's bicycle lanes there, but it is 3 with a turning lane because one of my clients is down that stretch and turning left when there's people coming up behind you at speed. And I saw when I was part of Broad Street 10 years ago, a number of rear end accidents right there at the traffic light, and people are more distracted today than that. And I live on Broad Street, and having people slow down would be a nice thing, and if 3 lanes does that, that makes me happy, so.
Absolutely, the whole basis of it is a traffic calming effect is what the goal is getting out of the switch.
Being an MDOT project though, does the city really have any say in the matter? Do we have some say at least? I mean, if we wanted to discuss that.
Yes, actually, it's been a public process. The planning commission and the different committees have been, and we've also had public comment section or meetings. So it is out there. I don't know specifically if we've had all the meetings or if we have some more coming up, but.
There'll be some more coming up. We still have to do the preliminary plans with MDOT when we get those back.
Okay, but we'll make sure council's aware of those.
No, I understand. I just wasn't sure if this was being the state, this is our highway, we're gonna do it with what we want. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council comment? It would be nice to have green space instead of bike lanes. Not sure how essential that is. It might have been tied to the grant, actually. We must make every city Ann Arbor.
I don't want to speak for him, but I was on the planning commission prior, and maybe Dr. Morrissey recalls more than I do, but he said Alan Beaker said something about bike lanes meaning extra money for the project.
Be nice to have trees or something to cut down on the noise, bushes. Okay, any other comments? Very good, thank you all. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Flynn. The meeting is adjourned.